All right, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where it is that you are actually joining me from. I am excited to be on with you all today, and it looks like we are live. So I'm ready to go ahead and get everything underway. I want to thank you for being here live with me. And if in fact you are live with me, by all means, drop a comment in. Let me know where it is that you're watching from. I know for some of you, this is a different day. I'm accustomed to normally being on with you on Wednesdays at noon, but because of a scheduling conflict, I had to make a change. And so I'm excited to be here with you and excited to share the information that we're going to be going through. So, if you've been keeping up with me on previous lives that I've been doing, one of the things that I can tell you is we've been focusing on what I refer to as the roadmap to success and roadmap to profits. And with the roadmap to profits, there are just certain things that need to be done in a specific order to make sure that you are, in fact, going to have the best possible chance of creating content that's effective. Secondly, building an audience that is really, specific to your niche. And then thirdly, being able to get to a point of you being able to create digital products based upon what your ideal customer is in need of and helping them solve problems. Oftentimes, people just do things in the wrong fashion or they do things out of order and then they start struggling. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we go through the information today, which talks specifically about avoiding the pitfalls, early pitfalls that new solopreneurs often experience. And these can be really frustrating to people if, in fact, they don't realize that there are things that you can do to avoid them. I'm going to just take a quick drink of water here. So, without any further ado, what I am going to do is to jump right into the information. And if you have any questions as we're going through this, by all means, drop them into the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer those as we go through. All right, so let's start off with the very first thing that I think a lot of solopreneurs experience, which is they don't start with a clear niche. Now, if you've ever been on any of my trainings, you know I harp on, coming up with a niche of some sort because depending on what it is that you're focused on, what you want to ultimately do, you really have to have a niche. And that niche is where you're going to then decide what it is that you want to do in terms of creating content. Because having a niche is going to allow you to attract an audience. If you are just creating a variety of content that's kind of all over the place, I'm not saying that you can't do that because you absolutely can. But what you should probably then be focused on is you being the niche and you really having more of a vlog style of content, if you will. If in fact you want to grow an audience where you can ultimately start creating a variety of digital products, it's probably better for you to start off with a niche. Now, the good thing about starting with a niche is, you're not married to it. So if you decide at a later point you want to change it, you absolutely can. But without a niche, it's going to be difficult for the algorithms of the various platforms that you might choose to build on to decide what type of audience they should be sharing your content with. So I want you to really think through that as you're starting to create content. Now, the thing about having a niche is you want to make sure that it's narrow enough that it's going to attract the audience that you're looking for. Let me give you an example. If in fact you're trying to create a niche and you just say your niche is going to be fitness, well, that can encompass a whole lot of individuals and a whole lot of types of people that might be interested in fitness. You have to become more narrow. So, are you focused on fitness for women? Are you focused on fitness for, busy women? Are you focused on postpartum moms? Who is it that you're focused on? By doing that, you're going to narrow your content down enough that the people who really are interested in that are going to find you, and that because they're going to be getting served your content through the various algorithms. If you try to serve everybody, you're just going to confuse the algorithm. And if the algorithm is confused, who knows who's going to end up in your audience? And it might be people that have really no interest in what it is that you're doing. Now, the second thing is you want to also be able to clarify who it is that you're going to help and what specific problems. And I kind of got into this when I talked about, narrowing down to the point of, is it fitness for women? Is it fitness for postpartum moms? Because again, if you're gearing toward fitness for postpartum moms, then 55-year-olds are probably not going to be interested in that type of content. So that helps you understand why you need to do that. And then, if in fact you are really just not sure, then you can try out a couple of different niches, if you will, when you're first starting off. But eventually, you really do need to hone in on something and think about what types of struggles you've overcome and, what kind of individuals would benefit from that, and then begin serving content for that. Now, that's the first one, not starting with a clear niche. So, you want to really sit down and give some thought to that. Now, the second thing is skipping market research. Now, um, I can't tell you how often this happens. When I talk about skipping market research, I'm saying that individuals who are brand new solopreneurs, they start creating things without really knowing, what their end game is or what it is that they want to do. And so they're just bouncing all over the place with different pieces of content. And then when they're not getting views, then it becomes an issue and they think they're doing something wrong. Well, you really are doing something wrong. You got to do something a little bit different. So you have to really think in terms of, based upon that niche and the individuals that you're looking to attract, what problems are they experiencing? Because if you're only creating content based upon what you want to do and not how you're going to be able to help them solve their problems, they're probably going to find someone else that can, in fact, help them. It might be someone that even has content that's not as good as yours, but because that person has honed in and is really helping them, now that they're moving over to that individual. So I really want you to do that. Now, one way that you can do this is once you know your niche and you know who it is that you want to serve, the next thing is start asking questions. And you can do that in a variety of ways. As you're posting content, let's say that you're using Instagram on your stories, you can begin asking what types of content or what types of problems they're experiencing. I've also shared that another way that you can do this is by going to Answer the Public. That's a great way to find out what type of problems individuals within your audience are experiencing, because you need to content that's going to solve problems. Now, the next thing is you can also use Chat GPT. Chat GPT is a great way to find out what people are dealing with. So just know you need to do the market research. You need to know what people are dealing with so you know what type of content you can actually create. Now, number three, the third thing is not posting consistently. Now, I'm going to share this and then I'm going to share a story with you on how I experienced this and how I was able to kind of work around it. All right. So, the first thing is when you decide you're going to start posting to attract your audience, posting content to attract your audience, one of the things you have to do is get really consistent with it. That means if you've decided you're going to do one post a day, do one post a day. If you've decided you're going to post 3 times a week, post 3 times a week, whatever it is that is going to fit into your calendar and into your schedule. You just want something where you can be really consistent with it because the algorithms will reward you for doing that, for presenting consistent content, putting it out there. And the other thing is your ideal customer will get to know when they can expect content for you or from you. That's why, for example, when I decided to do live trainings or live streams on YouTube, I had to pick a day and then I had to remain consistent with it. Now, I'm telling you, pick a day and stay consistent with it. And here I am on another day. Normally I do Wednesday, but due to a scheduling conflict, I had no choice. I'll be back to Wednesdays going forward. So now the algorithm can begin to expect that from me. So I'm just saying that's one of the things that you have to do. Now, I said I want to also share with you a couple of things that I went through, but there's one more point that I want to give you that I think will help you, and that is batch create your content. So if you're going to be creating content, for example, create it for the entire week. That way, all you're really focused on a daily basis or whatever your posting day is just posting the content. You're not looking at that particular day and saying, oh my goodness, what is it that I'm posting? What you're going to do and what you'll benefit from is sitting down and creating all of the content for the entire week. And that way it's ready to go. So, as I said, that will prevent you not knowing what it is you're going to post the day. Because trust me, I have done this and it is not a fun place to be in. You really want to get to a point where you already know what you're going to be posting and you've already created it. So, make sure that you do that as well. Now, how did I get around this when I experienced a situation? Well, last year was a really tough year for me in terms of my husband and my grandmother both being ill at the same time. My husband being really ill, my grandmother being out of state and being ill. So, I'm involved in the care of both of them. And so one of the things that really helped me was making sure that I had an amount of content that was considered to be evergreen. Now, what is evergreen content? It's content that people are going to always be searching for. And so, one of the things that I did to kind of set myself up for success was I created content that I knew people would be coming back to over and over and over again. Now, not necessarily the same people, but individuals that were looking for this type of content by either going to Google or to YouTube or whatever, and they're going into the search engine and typing in, how do I do X or how do I do Y? And so that type of content brought me a consistent stream of viewers, people that were watching my YouTube videos on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, I ended up taking about 4 months off from producing content last year, videos that is. I still post it to my YouTube community page, but I can tell you I didn't create videos for 4 months. But you know what happened during that 4 months? My audience grew substantially. Also, I ended up getting monetized. And, I almost felt guilty, but then as I thought through it, it's like, well, you did put in the work up front to create content that people would be continuously searching for. So, what I'm saying to you is if you're going to be posting, make sure you have content that is evergreen. You want to also, I'm not saying all of your content has to be evergreen, but you definitely want to have some content that's evergreen so that you can make sure you're always going to have people that are searching for you. All right. And searching for your content and easily being able to be found. All right. Now, number 4, and I wanna touch on this because this is probably the thing that I see people experiencing more than anything, causing some of the or not being able to resolve some of the issues and challenges that they're experiencing because they're not doing this. This one's a big one, and most solopreneurs skip it altogether. And what this is neglecting your personal development. Now, what do I mean by personal development? That's where you pop in, your AirPods or whatever it is you use to listen, or turn on a YouTube video that is focused on helping you grow in some way, personally grow. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's say you have some fears, some things that you need to work through. Well, there are all sorts of ways you can do that by either listening to audio, or you can even listen to books or read books, whatever it is. Now, again, I'm going to share a personal story with you. And this might seem strange, but it was just something I needed to work through. So, one of the things that I had been wanting to do for a long time was to do live video. I have spoken on stages where there have been 8 to 10,000 people in the audience, and that has never been a problem for me. I know, weird. But it was something about doing live streams, and I just had this mental block that I needed to work through. So there was a book called Hello Fears. And I read the book and then I read it a second time. And as I listened to the author, and because I had it on audio and I had the book itself, as I listened to the audio and read her words, it made me realize that there were things that I could do to overcome that by listening to what she did. Okay. So personal development is big. Another thing that you're likely to experience, I know I certainly have, is dealing with imposter syndrome, where you're wondering whether or not you're really capable of teaching it, or you should be teaching a specific topic, because maybe you're not as qualified as somebody else is, or maybe you're not qualified at all, or maybe the success you've had is just, a fluke. Well, you can overcome those types of things by dealing with imposter syndrome. And there are lots of different ways you can do that. You can go to just YouTube if you can't find a book on it. I actually do have a book I can recommend, but you can go to YouTube and just search the topic, how do I deal with imposter syndrome, and watch some videos on that. Personal development really should be a part of your daily activities. And I think if you talk to any successful entrepreneur or solopreneur, they're going to tell you personal development is not something that they like to do, it's something they have to do. And so I'm encouraging you to incorporate personal development into your overall business plan right away. This should be non negotiable, whether it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever it is, 20 minutes a day, whatever you can allocate, because some of the things that you're dealing with, just listening to someone who has overcome it or who can give you an example of how to get things done is definitely going to help your business long term. Because I can assure you, as you begin building your business, you will hit a wall at some point, and likely it's because of a fear, likely it's because of some challenge you need to work through. Or for example, you may find that you get to a point where you've achieved a certain goal, and now you're trying to figure out how to set the next goal, what it should be, and so forth. All I'm saying is there are a lot of different things that personal development can do for you. Okay. Now I'm going to switch screens here for just a second. And what I want to do is to show you a list of books that you can find. So give me 1 second here to actually switch screens and show you this. And so this is my community post page. And on this page, I actually have put in a series of books that have helped me. I've read every single one of these books, and some of them I have read multiple times. Many of these books, I have not only the book, but I also have the audio version of it. And so, what I would encourage you to do is, if in fact there's something you're struggling with or something you're dealing with and you haven't yet incorporated personal development, either grab some of these books to see if they may help you, or just use YouTube as a way of actually, finding content that could assist you in moving forward. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go back. And if you have any questions or, there's anything that I can assist you with on that, by all means, do put those into the chat. But I just want you to not neglect personal development because I can always tell when I'm talking with somebody who's experienced certain things. And I'll ask them, what books are you listening to? What books are you reading? What, content are you using to help yourself grow? If they can't give it to me right off the top of their head, I know they're not doing personal development. And I can't tell you how many solopreneurs, new ones in particular, do not do this. All right, I know I've spent a lot of time on that, but it's big and it's important. All right. All right, now here's the next one, number 5, waiting too long to build an email list. You really should be building your email list right away. So, as soon as you decide on what your niche is and who your ideal customer is, you should come up with something that can help them solve a problem. And it can be something as simple as a checklist, because this checklist or this lead magnet, or sometimes you'll hear it referred to as a freebie, what it's going to be doing is acting as kind of like a fishing rod in the water for you that's going to help you attract people that are interested in having a better connection with you. So, in exchange for their email address, what you're going to be doing is giving them your freebie. Now, this is not that difficult to do, and it can be something as simple as a checklist. If you have a video that you've recorded that's, 10 or 15 minutes long, you can use that. If you've written an ebook, that can be something that can act as your lead magnet. But the point is, you need to have something that people will exchange their email address for, so that you can start building your email list. Now, why is it important for you to build your email list? Well, the primary reason is that email list is an asset in your business. See, if you're building strictly on a social media platform or even YouTube, here's what I can tell you. If I look at the subscribers that I have, those subscribers belong to, and I'm talking about my YouTube channel, those subscribers belong to YouTube, not me. So if I want to connect with them, the only way I really have to connect with them if they're not on my email list is through video or connecting with them in the comments section, but they have to first reach out to me. Whereas if in fact you have built an email list, now you can communicate with them on as frequent of a basis as you choose to. So for example, with my email list, every Tuesday I'm going to send an email out, and in on that Tuesday email, or in that Tuesday email, I'm giving some valuable content. It's information that's allowing me to share with them something that will help them. And I stay within my content pillars. And I'll talk about content pillars a little bit later. But what the reason why I do this is what that is allowing me to do by sending them a weekly email it's allowing me to connect with them further. It's allowing me to share my knowledge. It's allowing me to help them grow. It's allowing me to help them learn how to do specific things. And oftentimes, even from there, because there's only so much you can do in an email message, I will then lead them back to one of my YouTube videos that I know can help them. I'll also invite them to join me on my weekly live training, because again, that allows me to work with them. So my point is, you really need to create an email list, and don't think that it's too early in the game. Now, creating your email list is probably more simple than you think it is. And as I mentioned, I'm going to link a video above that will show you how to set this up. But the basics are really simple. You're going to create the email, create the lead magnet. You will set up what's referred to as a landing page, which is nothing more than a one pager on the internet that'll shows a picture of your lead magnet, a mock up as we call it, and it'll have a couple of points that talk about how this particular lead magnet can help them solve a problem. You want it to be focused on a single problem, and that landing page should really just have you know, 2 slots, if you will, and max, meaning that there's a place for them to put in their first name and their email address or simply their email address and then hit submit or I want, the button that says I want this. Or the other option is they can just click away. You really want to use something as simple as that. And honestly, you can set up a landing page really in about 15, 20 minutes or so. And as I said, I have an entire video that walks you through the process. So start building your email list ASAP. All right. Now, the next thing, oh, and I'm sorry, on that landing page video, I even show you the system that's free for you to set up and start sending out emails as soon as people start requesting your lead magnet. All right. Now, the next thing, and this one's a big one as well. Give me one second. I drink some water here. The next thing, number 6, is creating digital products without an audience. Now, I'm telling you, I get contacted every single day via, Facebook comments. I'm sorry, Facebook Messenger. People going to my page there, my Instagram DMs, or whatever the case is, or even my YouTube contents, my YouTube comments. I'm sorry, and I can't tell you how many people will say to me, "Well, I've created my digital products, but nobody's buying them." I can't get individuals to buy them. Well, I have to go back and say, let's break this down and really understand why this might be happening. Number one, have you taken the time to build an audience? And the second thing I'll say to them is if you have not taken the time to build an audience, then you have two other options. One is going to be to start doing ads, using ads like on Facebook, Instagram, or even YouTube if that's your platform of choice. The second way that you can do it is through Etsy, or a platform, a selling platform. Now, I'm going to give you just my opinion on those things. I think when someone is brand new, if they decide that they want to sell, again, they have to know exactly who it is that they're selling to, their ideal customer, if you will. And if they don't know that, how do you even know the digital product that you've created is something that they want? Meaning, are they even struggling with that? That's the first thing. The second thing is if you're going to sell on Etsy, I personally am not a big fan of people selling on Etsy because of a variety of reasons. Number one, the first thing is you don't own those customers. So even if you sell on Etsy, those are Etsy's customers. You don't even have a way of connecting with them unless they have a problem, and then it's through the Etsy chat. Secondly, you have to pay listing fees for Etsy. The third thing, and probably the biggest thing, is that people who are selling on Etsy, if you look at the products that they have, I have seen many excellent products on Etsy, and they're selling them for such a low amount because there's a ton of competition. So you've got to figure out how you're going to stand out amongst all of those. I personally am not a big fan of that because I feel like if you're selling to an audience that you've taken the time to build, number one, you're pretty much getting rid of the competition. Secondly, you're able to sell your products at a much higher amount than you would on Etsy because you've pretty much, again, eliminated the competition. All right. So the third thing is, as you're looking at this, is it just makes more sense to take the time to build your audience. Now, like I said, you can do ads, but it takes time to learn how to craft an ad that people are going to be interested in. And most new solopreneurs really just don't have the skill set to do that. So it's a lot of trial and error. I say just create some content for your ideal customer and allow the process to happen naturally. Now you can figure out exactly what your customers want and then you create that digital product. And so that's going to be much more likely to sell. So just understand that If in fact your digital products are not selling, it's likely because you haven't taken the time to build an audience or you don't know what that audience wants. Now, another reason why your digital products may not sell is because, again, if you don't have that audience, you don't have enough traffic that's going to your digital product offers in order to actually get the sales. Let me just give you this is kind of a little bit more advanced, but it's important for you to know. Let's say, for example, you've created a digital product. It's sitting on a checkout page, for example. You've got all the information on there. In order to get, let's say, two sales, you're probably going to need to send 100 people to that offer page. Now, that's nothing unique about you. That's just industry standard. So if you don't have 100 people that are going to that page, then chances are you're not going to sell anything. That's why it's more important for you to focus on building an audience, because if you have an audience and you just simply let them know based upon what they've already told you that you've created a digital product that will solve one of the issues that they told you they were experiencing, you're going to have a much better chance of selling it. You're not going to have to discount it like you would if it was on Etsy and so forth. And you don't have to worry about ads. That's what's called organic traffic. When you are able to send your own audience to your offer and have them buy. So, by all means, wait to create your digital product until you've built up an audience. Now, I'm not saying you can't start thinking about it and perhaps mapping things out, but it's really going to be much better if, in fact, you have an audience that's told you what it is that they want from you, and then you create that. All right. Now, number seven, all right, is making content that does not lead to a product. So, if in fact you are creating content on a regular basis, you really want to have content that's ultimately going to lead to a product that you can create. So, for example, if in fact you focus on crocheting, I don't know why I like to use this example, but I happened to be on last night. I was scrolling through TikTok and I came across this woman who was crocheting online. Okay. And she was teaching people how to crochet. But the important thing was she was teaching them how to crochet, but she had a product, which was a pattern that she was selling. So I like to share examples like that because I often hear people say, well, do I have to only make or create products in the make money online area? Absolutely not. You can create products around anything. So, like I said, if you know how to create 30-minute meals that are simple and healthy, then that could be a product that you create and you build an audience that's interested in that type of thing. So just know that you can actually create the correct products for your audience, but you want to make sure the content you're creating is going to lead to that product. So for this woman who was crocheting, she was showing exactly what it was that she was crocheting. She was demonstrating it, and then she had a link for people to be able to buy her product. Okay. So, all right, Sheila, I'm glad that that was helpful for you. So, thank you for sharing that. Again, if you have any questions or comments, or if there's anything that you want to ask, by all means, put it into the comments. All right, let's move on to number eight. And this is really important because most of my audience is 45 years of age and older. Okay. And I always like to say, listen, we're tired by this point. I'm personally not a person who is interested in building an audience on Instagram because I know what the algorithm requires. The algorithm is going to require you posting two, three, four times per day. I don't want to do that. YouTube is an algorithm that personally I believe is more suitable to me, where I can create content and honestly, it can continue to get views for years. That's my type of content. But I'm not telling you not to. Maybe you absolutely love posting on Instagram. Do you, is what I always tell people. All right, so we're with number eight, we're talking about not repurposing. In other words, if you're creating content, You need to put that content into different forms so that you have more content to share. And you also need to reuse it. So I'm a big fan of repurposing, and I am a big fan of reusing content. What this is going to allow you to do is to share with your audience content that perhaps they haven't seen. And I always like to share this statistic because most people don't really understand it, which is this. If let's say that you have an audience of 100 people, when you share a piece of content, only 3 to 4% of your audience, that means 3 to 4 people are going to see that content because of the way the algorithms serve up content. That's almost crazy, which means you could have a really good piece of content, but a lot of your audience isn't seeing it. So how do you work with that? Well, you reshare that content at some point in the future. You repurpose it so that even more people will see it again at some point in the future or in a different fashion. So if you did it as a text post, then turn around and redo it as a short or a reel or a story if in fact you are using Instagram or Facebook, however it is that you're doing it. But my point is, do not let good content go to waste. Reuse it. And so the other thing is, I shared last week, and hopefully you had a chance to see it. And if you didn't, go back and watch it, which was, I have to make sure it was yes, it was last week, I believe, where I talked about multiplying your content. And I showed how you can get 20 pieces of content out of a single topic. Now, think about it, 20 pieces of content. If you're posting Monday through Friday, that's an entire month's worth of content. So make sure that you do that. You can find that video by going to my channel and then clicking on the live tab and look for the one that says something like multiply your content. Okay. I believe that's what the thumbnail says, but I'll also link it in the description box below after this video concludes. Now, with that repurposed content, you can also share that with your email subscribers. So I do this all the time on the regular basis, and you know what, every successful solopreneur out there is doing this as well. So don't feel like you're cheating or you're doing something that other people aren't doing. We absolutely are. Another reason why you want to repurpose and reuse content is if someone joined your audience this month and you shared a really good piece of content last month, they're not going to see that unless you reuse it, repurpose it, or reshare it at some point in the future. So make sure you do that. And, again, we're working smart over here, not hard. Okay. So I want to make sure that you really get that point. All right. Now, here's number 9. And I always say that if I can talk you into doing video, I'm going to keep at you until I can get you to do it. And here's why. Number 9 is avoiding video or showing up. So people will buy from people that they feel like they know. When you're on video, people feel as though they kind of know you. They get to know your personality, they get to know your quirkiness, they get to know how you think and how you present things and so forth. And showing up on video is a great way to build that know, like, and trust factor, the know, like, and trust factors much faster. Now, I'm not saying you can't build a successful business with a faceless channel or faceless content, because you can. I just believe that if you're showing up on video, that it happens so much faster. And it's not as difficult as you might think it is, because really all you're doing is talking to a camera. You don't need any fancy equipment. Chances are you have exactly what you need, maybe minus one or two things in your hand right now or within 6 feet of you. You can do great video with your cell phone. Just make sure you use the back camera. And the other two things that I would say you need is put your phone on a tripod, which you can buy very inexpensively from Amazon for less than 20 bucks, and get a microphone that you can clip on. You can buy a microphone for, $10 or $15 as well. Once you have that, then it's just a matter of looking into that camera and allowing your personality to come through. You don't have to pretend to be anyone else. You don't have to try to sound like anyone else. You don't have to do any of that. Just be yourself, and people will join your audience because of who you are. I always like to share this story with people, which is this: you and I could be teaching the exact same thing, but you and I are going to teach very differently. You and I may have, a different style of sharing. You may have an accent that people absolutely love. You may have, just a quirkiness about yourself. Or, like with me, I'm going to just give it to you straight. Now, that doesn't mean that not going to have some fun with it or whatever the case is, but I just want you to know that your personality just needs to be you coming across. So, again, if you can show up on video, if you can work through any fears or challenges you might have about that, by all means do it. Because I still say YouTube is an incredible way of building an audience, building it, in such a way that it really will allow you to have people looking at your content for years to come. So just kind of keep that in mind. And later on, I'll even show you a little bit more. I'll go into my YouTube studio and just kind of show you why I think this is an important thing for you to do. All right. Now, number 10, and this is another big one. I was on in one of the communities that I belong to, and there is this gentleman. He said he's 67 years old. He's a former, now retired truck driver with 4 million miles on the road and not a single accident. But tech is his issue. Tech. Okay. Now, that's number 10, overthinking tech and the tools. We're not going to overthink this. We're going to use the tools that allow us to do things in the easiest fashion. And I feel as though, like with this gentleman, if he could navigate the roads and drive 4 million miles without an accident, he can certainly learn the tech. Don't overthink this stuff. And that's one of the reasons why you will hear me often recommend System IO, and I'll put a link in the description for that. System IO is really an all in one platform that's going to allow you to do your landing pages. It's going to allow you to set up funnels to sell your more expensive products. It's going to allow you to do your email marketing. It's going to allow you to do some affiliate marketing if you're interested in doing that. It does a variety of things, because if you don't have those things in place in one specific tool, then you got to go searching all over the place. So I want you to use tools that are pretty simple to use. Now, what I would recommend is Canva for your graphics and most of the content you're going to create. This, excuse me. The second thing that I would recommend, as I mentioned before, was System.io, because with those two things, you can do almost everything that you need to. The only other place is having either your social media account or YouTube, if that's what you're going to use for your traffic source. So don't overthink this stuff. Everything that we do is something you can learn. And that's something I'd have to share with people. None of us came into this specific arena knowing everything that we needed to know. We learned it. And so through a combination of, for example, staying connected to me, watching some, other videos that might assist you with certain things that maybe I can't teach you, you can absolutely set up a business that will work for you. You're just going to have to give it some time and, give yourself some grace. Be patient with yourself, because again, all of this stuff is something you can learn. All right. Okay. Now, this is another big one, number 11. And I said I was going to do 10, but these two I have to share. I have to share two more with you. And number 11 is not tracking what's working for you. When you find something, a piece of content that works for you, you need to double down on it, which means you need to create more content around that particular topic. Because if people have shown you that they like it, then why wouldn't you actually create more of it, because that's the kind of thing that is going to allow you to get even more people who are viewing your content, perhaps even sharing your content. And it's once you start getting people viewing your content and sharing your content, the algorithms will reward you by showing it to more people. So, by all means, double down on it. But you have to be able to track all of this. Now, the one thing I can tell you is, for example, with YouTube, YouTube has incredible analytics. And I know you might be thinking, well, I'm not good with numbers, I'm not good with whatever. This stuff is not that difficult to learn. So just get very comfortable with it. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do here, give me one second. I'm going to switch over and go into the YouTube studio, and I'm going to pull up one video in particular. Uh, Give me just a second here while I find this. Okay, we're going to go into the analytics on this. Okay, let's share my screen now. Okay, so this particular video, let's see here. When did I create it? I want to say, okay, it looks like I published this in May of last year. Okay, this video has had about 30,000 views, 3,300 watch hours, which, if you know anything about YouTube, if you can manage to get that uh, 4,000 hours, watch time hours in a year, you'd almost be to the point of monetization. I was able to get 1,300 subscribers from this, and this video has made me $388. Now, here's the crazy part about this video. I didn't get monetized until the end of August. So when this video popped off at the very beginning, I wasn't even getting paid on it. But that was okay because I knew that, this video would continue to grow, and it would continue to send subscribers. It would continue to give me views, and in time I would get paid on it. But here's what I want you to really look at. With the YouTube analytics, see, I'm able to see that people are still watching this video on a regular basis. I'm able to see that, let's go in and show you, for example, with the audience. Okay. I can tell you from the analytics that the vast majority of people are watching this video on a computer. I can go in and show you that most of my audience is female, which is not at all surprising. I can show you that the vast majority of the people who are watching this video are 45 years of age to 65 plus, which is perfect for me because that's the audience that I'm attracting or looking to attract. So when I talked about, focusing on reviewing your analytics, this is critical. You have to do it because if you're just kind of out there throwing stuff up against the wall and you don't really know what's working, then you don't know what to create more of. So, I want to share that with you. Also, if you look over here on the right, I can even see that. Let's see if I can move this over a little bit. I can even see that 37% of my audience is in the US. So there's all sorts of things that I want you to know that you can do with this. So don't be uncomfortable. Let me just switch this back to me. Don't be uncomfortable with getting to know the analytics and searching for that. Now, you do have the same similar types of analytics on Facebook and Instagram. I personally think that the analytics that you get from YouTube are just much more detailed and really allow you, to know what's going on. So you have to track your content and how it's performing. You're going to create more of what people like. You're going to use the YouTube or use the analytics to understand what that is, and you're going to continue going. Now, another thing is, you remember how I showed you that most of my audience is women? I'm not at all surprised by that. And I want to show you one thing that helps me understand this. And hopefully, this is something that you will do as well. Now, what I have here, let me bring this down some. Okay, so what I have done, and I hope you will do as well, is I've created a sample ICA profile. ICA stands for Ideal Customer Avatar. This is not a real person. This is just a composite of the people that fall into my particular audience that I want to serve. Okay, so I want you to see that with this ICA profile, it is extremely detailed. And I use this as my guiding post, if you will. It's the one thing that keeps me on track to know who it is I'm creating content for and what it is they're struggling with and what they're going through. So basically what I'm saying is my ICA's name is Nicole. I've even given her a name and you should too. He or she, whoever that happens to be. Okay? So Nicole is 50 years of age and she works in corporate America. That's exactly who my ideal customer is. Now, does this mean that I won't have people who are not 50 years of age and older? Does that mean that I won't have men? Absolutely not. And all of them, everyone is welcome over here. So, but when I'm thinking about creating content and I'm thinking about products, I'm thinking about Nicole. Okay. Now, the other thing is I go on to talk about the fact that she's working, she's got some credit card debt, she has 10 years left on her mortgage, she wants to get the credit card debt paid off, and one of the things she wants to do is to start a business part-time, which is going to allow her to ultimately work her way out of her job. So in other words, she's not quitting her job to do this, she's just going to start part-time, and eventually she wants to be able to pay off the credit card debt, start putting money toward retirement, and then the last thing is she wants to be able to replace her income. She wants to be able to spend more time with her kids who are getting older and so forth. The reason why I'm sharing all of this with you is I want you to know how detailed you need to get. So when I create content, I know for a fact who I'm creating content for. So if we go back to this screen where I said 63% of my audience is women, that's because I create content to attract those individuals. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you have any questions, again, just drop them into the comments and I'll be happy to answer those. All right. So now, the last thing, and again, remember I talked about 10, but I'm actually giving you 12. The last thing that I want to talk about, and this one's big, and this is trying to do everything alone. Okay. Eh, Solo being a solopreneur can be a very lonely business because it's just you. Now maybe in time you'll have a virtual assistant or something like that, but it's really just you. And so sometimes, a lot of times, you need people that you can bounce ideas off of. You need people that have traveled the road that you're already on, who can say, you know what, I tried that, but this worked better for me, or this is where I'm at. You need people that understand the struggles that you are going through, because someone who's doing what we do, hold on one second. I hope I didn't lose you all. So if I did, it will come back on. I hope I didn't lose you all. So if I did, it will come back on. So let's just see. Okay, it looks like we're still live. So I am going to keep going. Okay, so as I was saying, oftentimes people they just don't get us. And so it becomes very, very difficult to do that. So my point is you should really focus on a community, becoming part of a community. Thank you so much, AI Art. I love that. So, and thank you for being a new subscriber. And I'm glad that the content is helpful to you. So, thank you again for sharing with me that we are, in fact, live. Okay, so don't go at it alone. There are going to be communities that you can become a part of, and I'm glad that you're part of my community. And you want to make sure that you connect with other. solopreneurs who are going, doing the same kind of things that you want to do. They don't even have to be in the same area that you're in, meaning your area of focus. They just need to be an entrepreneur of some sort because they will get you. They'll understand why you're reading books. They'll understand why, as I mentioned, you're staying up late or getting up early. They'll understand why you have a deadline and perhaps you can't come to some activity or event that they're having because you've committed to doing something. So make sure that you align yourself with people who are going in the same direction that you're going in. Also make sure that, you're bouncing your ideas off of people who understand what you're doing, because if you're talking about creating an income that can ultimately be 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a month, somebody who makes 50,000 per year just may not understand that. And with what it is that we're doing, trust me, those numbers are very, very possible. So thanks, Alicia, for letting me know that we're still here. I'm glad to know that you are still on. So I can't tell you how much easier things will be when you align yourself. That's why one of the things that I do is I make sure that I'm part of groups of individuals who, a lot of them are on Facebook, that are solopreneurs or entrepreneurs. They understand. So we can speak the same language. We can share, books that have helped us. We can talk about podcasts that we want. We can talk about if, in fact, they're in the digital product space. We can talk about, for example, how they might have set up their funnels. All of these things. So I want to ultimately, create some type of community for us so we can all gather in one location and, get even more specific about things that are definitely going to help you. But I just want you to know that my focus is really on helping you navigate this whole digital space, helping you to build an audience, helping you to create an email list, helping you create and sell digital products that are going to create for you a consistent stream of income. Now, I'm going to just put it out there. One of my personal goals is to help 100 people earn at least $1,000 per month. And I want to do that by the middle of next year. So by June 30th of next year, I want to have a list of people who are consistently earning at least $1,000 per month. And I know that we can do that. So I'm going to give you as much information as I can to help you along the way. I'm going to tell you which pitfalls to avoid, which is why we're doing this. Yes, I'm going to continue to teach things like content creation and so forth, but it's important for you to know what pitfalls are out there and that most people are going to experience. Why? Because if I tell you what the pitfalls are, if they start to happen to you, you can navigate around that. You can say, oh, this is normal. I'm experiencing fear. I'm experiencing imposter syndrome. Rhonda said to make sure that I my focus on my personal development. Am I doing my 10, 20, 30 minutes per day of personal development? You can do that when you're in your car driving. You can do that in the morning when you're getting ready, whatever. Just don't skip it. So these are all the things that I want to ultimately give you because I want us to get to a point where there are so many of us out here who have learned this information that we can in turn pass it on to others that want to learn it as well. Because I can tell you that, we're getting ready to head into some rocky economic times, and a lot of people, unfortunately, are going to lose their jobs. So let's show people how they can replace their income. Let's show people who are at a point where maybe they're just 55, 60 years of age, 45, whatever it is, and older. There's some other things you can do. And again, you don't even have to be in the making money arena. You might be in the cooking arena. You might be in the fitness arena. You might be in the crocheting arena. You might be in the fishing arena. It really doesn't matter. The point is, you have knowledge and skills that you can share with someone. And there are lots of people out there waiting for you to be their instructor. All right. Now, if you know anything about me, I'm not going to let you off of here without giving you some mindset training. I always like to end these lives with some mindsets training. And today I really want to talk about, that little voice in your head that's going to, almost act as a bully to you. And the little voice in your head is the one that's going to say, you know what? You can't succeed with this. You are not cut out for this. Other people can do this, but I don't know if you can really do it. And unfortunately, all of us have that voice that shows up in our brain sometimes. And it'll happen at the strangest times. Like you're in the midst of trying to figure something out, and all of a sudden, I always say the negative committee starts meeting in your head and giving you all the reasons why you can't do it. You have to get to a point where you manage that negative voice. That negativity, you have to learn how to push it aside. And it's not unique to you. We all deal with it. Every single one of us deals with it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, I'm looking at something, I know what I want to accomplish, and all of a sudden that negative voice shows up. You have to learn to silence it and you have to let it know that you're the one in charge and that it just needs to kind of chill out until you can figure things out. And then you, in fact, are able to move forward. But don't think that just because you send it packing one time, it won't come back. It's kind of like it's kind of like one of those mosquitoes. If you've ever dealt with a mosquito when you're sitting outside and the mosquito, you wave it away and it goes away for a while and then here comes two or three more. It's going to happen to you and it is normal. So just learn how to manage it. Let it know that you've got this thing, you've got a group of people that you connect with, you've got information at your hands that will allow you to figure out what it is you need to figure out. And the thing you have to internalize is this: if other people have been able to do it and figure it out, so can I. Okay. I want to leave you with one last thing, and I'm going to go over to a post that I did. And I want to give you an example of something. Okay. So give me 1 second here. All right. I'm going to switch back to my screen. I shared this on my community page. So, just to set the stage, on April 30th, that was my very first live. Now, if you were on here earlier, you heard me say that I just had this big fear of going live, although I've spoken in front of 8 to 10,000 people on a stage and I could do that without blinking an eye. It wouldn't bother me. But there was something in my brain about going live. So I went live on April 30th for the very first time. And you know what happened? Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. But you know what? I used that as, a challenge. I used it as a teaching moment and I shared it with my audience. And here was the post that I put out. Essentially, I let them know what happened. I let them know that I had been using fear, or fear had been holding me back from doing live streams. And then I explained all the stuff that went wrong. But what I went on to say was, you know what? I know I can figure this stuff out. And I'm one of those people, and I hope you are too. I'm too stubborn to quit. So I will figure something out. And I even said, I had to finally admit that my limiting beliefs were holding me back. I went on and did it after, or did this. Stuff went wrong, but some people hung in there with me who were on that live stream, and I committed to doing a better job going forward. And you know what? This resonated with people. Okay, this was the video, or I'm sorry, the picture that I posted with it, and it essentially said, your limiting beliefs will have you in the same place next year as you are today. And that is absolutely true. And you can see that this particular post, 21 people gave it a thumbs up. Chances are it resonated with even more people than that. But 21 people at least gave it a thumbs up. And that's because I'm sharing with them my mess ups. And it's okay to share your mess ups with people because they can relate more to your failures than they can to your successes. So just know that as well. All right. So before we wrap things up, I just want to find out if, in fact, there are any questions that you have. Otherwise, I just want to give you a little bit, or just let you know that next week, Wednesday at noon, I'm back, noon Eastern time, I'm back. This video will be up, and if, in fact, there's something you want to rewatch, you'll be able to do that once the video actually uploads in that. But if there, again, are any topics that you would like for me to cover, on any of our live streams, I'd be happy to do that. So just submit those to me. Let me know what it is that you'd like to learn. And you'll also see more recorded videos from me as well. So, with that being the case, I am going to get ready to end this. I appreciate every single person who is watching this. I appreciate those of you who are on live and commented and definitely let me know that I came back when I lost you there for a second. And as I said, my goal is to help you navigate the waters so that you can get to your goals and your destinations of learning how to do digital products, ultimately sell and create and sell them in the fastest possible way that you can. Because again, there are things that I've learned that I can teach you to avoid, which will allow you to get there much faster. So, with that being the case, I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you either next week on live or in one of my future videos. Have a great day and have a very, very productive week. All right, goodbye.